As you all know, this is a very raw, a very fresh investigation. There's a number of things that we can't talk about. We wanted to get out here in front of you this morning, let you know what happened. I know you're hearing a lot of speculation, so if we could begin. So please be understanding that there are certain things that are ongoing that we certainly can't discuss. This morning at approximately 7:15 a.m. at Jonathan Law School right across the street, there was an altercation between two students where a male student, a 16-year-old male student, assaulted a 16-year-old female student. The assault occurred in a hallway adjacent to a stairwell. A member of the school staff witnessed a portion of the assault, and she, along with other members of the school staff, discovered the victim to have life-threatening injuries. Members of the school staff performed life-saving measures on the student. EMS was notified, they responded. They too attempted to perform life-saving measures upon the student. The student was transported to Bridgeport Hospital, where she was pronounced dead at 7:43 this morning. The suspect was taken into custody by members of the school staff and escorted to the office, the administration office. Officer Kiley, the school resource officer, was notified. He took the suspect into custody, placed him in handcuffs, and the suspect is currently in police custody. The suspect is a 16-year-old juvenile, so his name will not be released at this time. Regarding the early dismissal of school, as we speak, Jonathan Law High School is an active crime scene. We have investigators conducting a forensic examination of the scene and collecting evidence. I asked the superintendent of schools to dismiss the students to allow us to process that scene uninterrupted. And I want to commend Dr. Fieser and her staff for a dismissal that was organized and very orderly. As we speak, our investigators are conducting a large number of interviews and looking at other measures as well to determine not just why this happened, but how it happened. Dr. Fieser?
Thank you. We are obviously devastated by the loss of one of our students, Maren Sanchez. She was a 16-year-old junior, vibrant, very, very involved in Jonathan Law High School, an incredible contributor, someone who was loved and respected by both her peers as well as her students. The Jonathan Law community mourns greatly the loss of Maren, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her family. We want to let the Jonathan Law students and families know that there are counselors that are available on site now. They will be here for the remainder of the day, and they will be here throughout the weekend. We encourage students to please come. We also want to say that this evening was supposed to be our junior prom and post-prom. Those events are being postponed, and we will hold the junior prom and a post-prom, but we do not know yet when that will occur. And we simply ask for the support of the Milford community as we move through this very tragic event. Thank you.
This is a difficult day for Milford. It's an even more difficult day for the Jonathan Law High School community. Anytime there's a death, it's tragic. It's especially difficult when it's a young person, like we see this morning. Our thoughts and our prayers also go out to all the families that are affected. And now with us to make a statement is our State Senator, Gail Schlossberg.
This is a terrible day here in Milford. Our hearts go out to the families, to everyone who is affected. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. We are all heartbroken at this loss. I've spoken with the governor's office, and the governor is equally sad and heartbroken over this tragic loss of young life and the devastation to the community. And he stands ready with all and any and all resources that the state can offer to help us heal and to help us deal with the tragedy that we've experienced today.
Thank you, Senator Schlossberg. I'll take your questions.
Chief, talk a little bit about the interaction with the students. You said it was an isolated incident. Were the two students in an area where other students would have been exposed to what happened?
They could have been exposed. It was in a hallway beyond a set of doors adjacent to a adjacent to a stairwell on the first floor. There was a teacher who actually walked upon it and saw a portion of that. It may or may not have been witnessed. I don't want to comment, I don't want to go too far in my comments, but it may or may not have been witnessed by other people, or a portion of it may have been witnessed.
Chief, we're getting word that this was all about prom dates, that this suspect asked the victim out for prom. She said no, and that's when the assault happened. Can you talk a little bit about that at all?
We've heard those stories or that information. Whether or not that's rumor or whether or not that's fact, we don't know. And so I think it's important that no one here and no one out here speculate on these rumors. Those are things we're looking into, and we hope to have a better answer later on. Again, remember, this is very fresh, but we've heard those as well, and I can't confirm that.
Chief, it must be especially difficult, as you said, in doing a large number of interviews. These are kids you have to talk to.
Yes.
And it must make, for the investigators, the police, difficult and witnesses to talk about. Anything you want to pass along that might be helpful to parents or caregivers maybe about helping the police with the investigation?
Well, the parents have been tremendous so far, and before we talk to a student, we want to talk to the parents first. This is something that everybody wants to get to the bottom of and find out why it happened, how it happened, and what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again. In the school, as Dr. Feaser's mentioned, there's resources available at the school for the students. We have specially trained investigators that deal with kids on a regular basis, and all of our officers are pretty savvy when it comes to talking to kids. But so far, we haven't had, it's gone very smooth, and we appreciate that. Thank you for your question.
Was this a knife attack?
I don't want to comment, I don't want to confirm that happened, only because it is too raw right now. There were some severe injuries that were visible around the neck area. Beyond that, it's up to the OCME to conduct a death investigation into manner or cause of death. So until that happens, until that's released, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to comment.
Can you talk about the relationship between the two students? Did they have any sort of...
Robert, I can't comment on that because we just don't know. Again, this just happened about 4 hours ago. We're still trying to put this thing together, and it would be premature for me to start to speculate whether or not there even was a relationship between these two. But I want you to know that as soon as we can confirm this information, we're going to get it to you. We're just trying to protect the integrity of the investigation, and we want to make sure that what we tell you from this position right here is in fact accurate.
Can you walk us through the lockdown process and the evacuation process that occurred after?
We have an SRO, we have school resource officers on scene. Well, one school resource officer that's on scene, and actually that program started in March. The school did a fantastic job, their staff did a fantastic job. They notified the school resource officer immediately, notified the PD immediately, and the school was placed in lockdown. This is something that they practice. That went relatively smooth, well, that went very smoothly. And we arrived on scene shortly thereafter, and along with Dr. Feaser, we had all agreed that it was best to dismiss the students, and again, that was done in a very orderly and relatively quick fashion.
Excuse me, I talked to a couple of students, Chief, who said that there was kind of a lot of chaos, and when they were released, they said they didn't really know what was going on, and they also said they were very upset, almost crying, and saying, how did the kid get a knife into the school to do this when there is an SRO officer? And they were actually saying, questioning how safe the school is. Mm-hmm. And if it's a concern now, going forward, if somebody could bring a knife in and stab a girl to death, and she's lying dead now a few hours later.
Well, let me take the first part of your question. It was very broad, very fresh, as I mentioned earlier. We didn't know what happened ourselves. We know that we had a victim. We knew that we had somebody that was in serious condition. In fact, this young lady died. And we know we had a crime scene. And we know we had a number of students that we needed to make sure that there was no longer a threat at the school. We determined that very quickly, that there was no other threat in the school, and the school was very secure. It was an incident that occurred between two people. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to speculate and provide young people with information that we can't verify ourselves. That would, in fact, would be irresponsible. The responsible thing to do would be to tell the parents what we told the parents, that there was an incident at the school that involved two students, that one of the students was seriously injured, and that student had been transported to the hospital, and that the school was safe, and that the suspect was in police custody, and that we were releasing the students to the responsible people, to their parents or other responsible ones. And so I think that was a very responsible thing to do. In regards to whether or not it's young people can bring a knife into school or any other object, these schools aren't equipped with metal detectors. It's not the school, we don't have that type of system here. I'll leave it to others to determine whether or not they think that that's appropriate for the Milford school system. This is an isolated incident. These schools are very safe. You know that because you report on this area, many of you.
Is there surveillance video of this?
The school is equipped with surveillance and surveillance video, and I'll leave it that if there is surveillance video, we'll have it.
Did you retrieve a knife from the scene?
I don't want to comment on what evidence we've taken from the scene, but there is some evidence there, and we are in the process of collecting that evidence and processing that. And as soon as that's something we will release to you, if not later today, but perhaps tomorrow. It's important that the OCME has the opportunity to do his work and determine manner and cause of death before we start drawing what may to many of you seem a natural conclusion, but we want to make sure it's based on fact in terms of manner and cause of death. Frank, that's a good question. Right now, the suspect's in police custody. We'd like to arraign him today, but that's up to the state's attorney. So, Frank, it may or may not happen today. I don't have a definite for you.
Will he be charged as an adult?
I'm going to leave that for the state's attorney. Again, right now, this suspect is a juvenile, unless and until the suspect's arraigned and classified as an adult by the court.
Is he
Can you
cooperating
tell
with
us
you? Did he give you
anything
any
about
info?
the suspect's, are you willing to say anything about the suspect's demeanor after the incident or anything that you know?
No, I'm sorry. I think right now that would be inappropriate.
Can you discuss the nature of her injuries again?
You know, I really can't because I can only tell you what's visible, and I said that she had some visible injuries. It's up to the OCME to conduct a thorough investigation, and so it would be inappropriate for me to say that until I receive that conclusion, that information from the OCME.
And this question is for the superintendent, please. If you could, can you talk a little bit? We got word that she is a junior class president. Do you know anything about that? Can you talk about how she made such an impact in the school? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can just simply say that she was extremely involved in the school. She was an athlete. She was in the National Honor Society. She also helped out with some of the other teams, the athletic teams. I think she was the manager maybe of the tennis team. She very, very well respected, liked, academically did extremely well. Just a wonderful young woman.
Dr. Fieser, can you talk about what's going to happen tonight to maybe help the students? They were obviously planning to go to the junior prom.
Well, what we're hoping is that a number of students who will come in and access the counseling services that are being made available to them, because we want to provide them as much support as possible. We also wanted to assure them that we will have the prom take place.
Okay. Was she the junior class president?
I don't have an answer to that question. I don't have an answer.
Can you speak at all about the notification of the victim's family?
I'm sorry?
Can you speak at all about the notification of the victim's family?
I'm not able to do that.
That notification was made by the hospital and by our staff. We have a detective. We had 2 detectives at the hospital with the victim, and so that contact was made between the detective and the family, between the hospital and the family.
At the hospital?
I'm sorry?
Was it at the hospital?
They spoke at the hospital, yes.
You mentioned her name earlier. Maren Sanchez. What is it?
Maren,
Maren,
M-A-R-E-N.
M-A-R-E-N?
Yes.
Sanchez.
S-A-N-C-H-E-Z.
Chief, could you go back to the suspect and if he had said anything, if he cooperated?
That'd be inappropriate right now. Again, we're still in the initial stages of this, so what he may or may not have said, I think, should certainly stay within law
This is still
enforcement.
a crime scene, right?
This subject known to Milford Police? Does he have any history with Milford Police?
Once again, I think that's something that needs to remain within law enforcement right now. Yes,
I know he's a juvenile. Is there a possibility he could be charged as an adult, even though he's 16?
certainly that's a possibility, and that's a matter for Kevin Walder, our state's attorney, as to whether or not he'll be charged as an adult.
This is still a crime scene, Chief, but classes should resume on Monday, right?
counselors available
Yes. Yes.
on Monday?
We just asked that the school be dismissed so we can conduct our investigation. And we're probably going to be there all day. We could be there all night, but we'll be out of there by Monday, absolutely.
Doctor, you'll have counselors available for the students on Monday?
Yes. Chief, will you put this in context of just how unusual this is for Milford in terms of, let alone a child murder, any murder at all in the city? How does this fit in the larger context of crime?
Well, I think the data speaks for itself. I mean, you all know the data, you have access to it, you report on it. And it is very uncommon. Homicides are uncommon in Milford. Nevertheless, a homicide of a young person, and certainly an incident like this that occurs at one of our schools.
Chief, following the situation in Newtown, and now for this to happen here in Milford, even though it's a really different kind of a situation, will there be additional safety measures now at the school or all the schools to possibly guard against an incident like this happening?
You know what? I think there's time for all that. Right now, we're in the initial stages of an investigation. We'll dissect this thing when we figure out what happened and how it happened. And those are things that we'll certainly take a look at, but I think it's premature right now to be talking about that. Anyone else?
Arrested on scene. Could you also talk about, maybe this is for the superintendent, obviously teenagers are going to have different reactions to this happening in their school. Is there something that you do not want them to do? Like, you know, I say you want them to come to the school, but I mean, some people might be looking for punishment for this suspect, including a girl. Some people might want to gather at different places.
Our greatest concern is that if there are kids who are really hurting, which I imagine a number are, that they keep it to themselves. And what we would really want our students to do is to let someone else know that they really need support. And we have the services in place to be able to support them. So that's our greatest concern at this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions?
Chief, did the boy resist arrest?
No, he did not.
How long after the incident was he apprehended?
Within seconds. It happened. The school staff was the one who removed him from the scene and called the school resource officer. The school resource officer took him into custody and handcuffed him without incident.
Was that a teacher or some?
Yeah, right now, again, there's time for recognizing who it is, but I've just suffice to say there were members of the school staff, and there were a number of members of the school staff who assisted.
And just for context, it was pretty early in the morning. Are we talking first period, homeroom?
That the superintendent will have to answer.
That would have been first period, yes. It would have been in first period.
First period.
Right.
I've been out of school a while, so I'm not sure what that is. Anyone else? Great.
Do you anticipate coming back out, Chief?
I may not, but Officer Nielsen will come back out. And there's also Kathy Benetti, the public information officer for the school system. We will update you. You know, we want you to know what happened. We want parents to be assured that the schools are safe and that this was an isolated incident and that it is under control. So we will give you information as it comes available.
I just have a question for the superintendent. So oftentimes teachers say that they could have seen any tell that there was maybe some tension between students. Is this a situation like that? Could you have told?
In all honesty, I don't have that information.
I just wanted to just add to that. We have an SRO. We have a law enforcement representative in the school. If the school has information, that's passed on to law enforcement. And in this case, there was nothing. There was no other information that was available until this incident occurred regarding this particular student.
Could this have been premeditated? Could this boy have gone to the school with a weapon in hand in case she said no? No.
Well, I think you're drawing a conclusion that I'm not prepared to draw, and that is that he, in fact, there was some sort of connection to the prom. We're not going under that assumption right now until we have information that confirms that. Anything is possible. We'll get to the bottom of not just how this happened, but why it happened.
And Chief, both suspect and victim here are students.
They're both juniors, correct?
Both students.
Yes, 16-year-old juniors.
Can you speak at all to the mental state of the suspect?
No, I cannot.
Would you say
Yes.
that the staff interrupted the attack, or did they break it up?
You know what, Jill? I don't want to go that far because we're still interviewing people. And I can tell you that a staff member came upon the assault that had already started And whether or not they interrupted it, whether or not it was concluded, those are things that we really just don't know yet, and anything else would be speculation.
Any sense yet of plans for a memorial service or anything along those lines?
I think that that's something that will probably come from the school, but right now I think it's a little premature for that right now. Again, we are just here this morning to let you know what's happening across the street, and so you can report on that. Those are questions that we can certainly answer for you at a later time.
So you said you want students to come back.
Unless, Betty, excuse me, unless you have something that you wanted to offer to that.
No, I think it is premature. I think right now we're dealing in the moment here.
So you said that you want students to come back to the school. When will the school be reopened? When should
Well, we
students
would
come
hope it would
back?
be opened on Monday. That
Monday.
obviously is a decision of the police department, but as Chief Mello indicated, he's assuming that the investigation on the school side will be completed, so we will be able to resume on Monday.
I mean, there is still a lot to do here, and our investigators are going to be very active for quite a while. And we'll give the information as it comes available. So thank you.